What's going on, Mark? How are you?
I'm doing great.
Happy belated birthday to all of you out there that don't know. Mark just had a birthday and he's looking younger than ever.
Yeah,
so.
Mark just turned 64. This is what it looks like when you get old, folks.
And we're going to see if we can still have you striking in this 64th year.
Yeah, I think I throw my last strike that matters.
No. I'm determined, Mark. I'm determined.
No.
You ready for these questions?
Just like it's your last slam dunk, too.
Oh, yeah. No, we're not going to get into that. As you guys will see
I'm not the
later.
one that can't walk today either. That's you.
Well, I'm in this chair asking you these questions.
That's right.
So I'm going to dive into these questions from our subscribers. Thank you guys so much for sending these in. We love these questions. Mark loves answering them. I think a lot of people get a lot of value. And if you do want your question answered and haven't seen it yet, don't give up hope. We will try to get to as many of them as we can, but just continue to send them in because that's the only way that we'll be able to even give you an opportunity for it to get answered. So we're going to dive into this. Thank you so much, Mark. Question number one, a question that has me thinking. I'm a right-handed bowler. Is my lineup based on my left or my right foot?
I tend to always use my left foot to line up when I'm my stance, because when I slide, I look down at my left foot. When I slide on the left foot. So if I stand on 20, for me personally, and I slide on 24, I know I have a 4-board drift to the left. If you stood on 20 and you slid on 17 with your left foot, it's much easier to figure out your drift. Looking at your right foot and measuring with your left foot is a very tricky, because the number is going to be too big. So it's much easier if you really want to know what your drift is on every shot to help you line up. So a good way to put it, the reason why I know my drift is 4, say I was watching somebody bowl and they were sliding on 20 and they were hitting second arrow. My drift is 4 left and I missed my target by 3, meaning if I look at 7, I hit 10. So I would stand on 16, look at 7, and I would slide on 20 and I would hit 10. So my drift and my miss is just my own way of doing it. I know the next question is going to be, how do I figure out my drift and what my miss number is? You need somebody to watch you bowl. The easiest way to do it, put your left foot on the square on your foot on 18, look at 10, and throw 10 shots, and look down at your foot and think what you missed, and have somebody independently watch and have them write down the numbers, and then you two can figure out what your miss and what your drift is. That way, if you want to line up, it's just math. But I do get a lot of people asking me, how do you do the math? Can you do my math? I can do your math in person. I can't do it. I've got to see you bowl, see where you slide, see where you hit, and then I can do the math pretty quick. But I can't just randomly have here's a math chart. I could, but then I'd have to figure out a way to get monetized on some information like that.
Yeah, maybe if people saw it written down, that's something we may be able to do for you guys right now.
But then I got to figure out how wide your shoulders are, how wide your hips are.
Yeah, that's a lot.
There's a lot to know.
I was just saying right now, stand at 20, look at 10, watch where your ball goes.
But if you slide on 15 and you hit 7, then you got to know. You have to know your drift and miss to make all of it effective.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully that answers.
That's what coaching is. It's not me telling you what to do. It's me telling you what you can do. But more importantly, when you take a lesson, think of it like this. Here we go. So if you got a jigsaw puzzle and the picture is you in the middle, and the word on top is consistency. The 4 things I believe in are timing and balance, accuracy, and breakpoint control. I believe so much in the breakpoint control, I invented my own way, the Baker box. So those are the borders. Those are easy. Borders in a jigsaw puzzle are easy to put together. The middle picture is you. So when you're talking about all the things you want to work on, your drift and your miss number, those are the inside pieces. Anybody's ever done a jigsaw puzzle, easy to do the border, but it might take you a whole week or a long time to find those 2 pieces you can't find. But once you find those 2 pieces, the next 5 line up. So the inside of the jigsaw puzzle is why you take lessons. When you take a lesson, I'm trying to give you pieces back that build your own game, so that picture's done with you in the middle with that ball coming off the end of your fingertips, right at the end of your toe, and your chin and your knee on the same plane. That's the one picture everybody looks at. So remember, taking lessons is about finding pieces of that puzzle to put into your own puzzle.
Question number 2. What's a way to fix timing with push away and step? I use a 5-step approach, and I noticed that on the second step, I push later than I step.
Well, I don't measure timing in the second step. That's not where you throw the ball from.
True.
I measure timing when your slide foot gets flat in front of your head. Your swing should be parallel to the ground. That's something I came up with when I wrote my book. God, it's been 14 years I wrote a book. I talked about my timing, and then I did a DVD, which you can't get. The book you still can on Amazon. And then I just did an instructional video. The game's changed. So if you're one-handed, that would be the one-hand instructional video with Dave Husted, Chris Prather, and Danielle McEwen. If you're two-handed, I brought in the big horses, Jason Momani and Anthony Simonson, the 2 best. They measure timing with their left arm when their foot gets flat in front of their head. So I couldn't fix it in your second step. I don't measure timing there. I measure timing when you slide, when you're throwing the ball. Timing is the ability for your lower body and your swing to work together as your core doesn't move at release. So having good timing in your second step has nothing to do with your scores.
And I know something that you've told me plenty of times is just walk the first 2 steps.
Walk the first 2 steps. You want to get your ball in your swing. But the reason why I don't measure timing there, I've been very fortunate to work with 2 of the best of all time. Tommy Jones, Chris Barnes. One moves it extremely early, one moves it extremely late. But at the timing spot, when their slide foot got flat in front of their head, both their swings were exactly parallel. Karen Doran-Ballard, Doug Kent, Dave Husted, Mark Roth. Now there's a whole group of bowlers. So I came out with it 14 years ago. So far, no other coaches or no bowlers have taken a shot at my timing spot. It tends to show up with a lot of good bowlers. So it's a great way to measure because it allows you to stay in balance and be consistent. That's why I measure where I measure, because it's right when you throw the ball.
Great answer. So make sure you check out a series if you haven't already. It's available, markbaylor.com.
Some people move it late, some people move it early. I don't measure timing there. I do know this. People that tend to move the ball late always measure early when I measure them. They've been told they're late or early, whatever they've been told, to move it later. But that's not where I measure timing. So they move it late, swing goes back quick, feet are slow. You can't walk by the ball when the ball's in front of you. So if you push it really late, it's hard to get in time. You're always going to have early because you're going to pull it up. If you pull it up, conversely, then you got to pull it down. So when you go to slide, the ball's below that spot. Then your weight transfer gets onto your left leg. Shoulder comes in front. So you probably top it and spin it off to the right.
Little chicken wing.
No choice.
Question number 3. Okay, so as a 2-hander, I drift about 7 to 10 boards. Where should I be looking so that if I get, I get that if I start on 20 and land on 30, that's 10 boards, right? But what arrows should I be looking at?
So most 2-handers tend to miss half as much when they, so if you stand on 20, look at 10, you're probably going to slide on 30 and hit 15. That's kind of how I see it, because a lot of it's like that. So it's very tricky. If you try to stand on 20 and look at 15, you're going to probably drift too far to get on your body on the other side of your target. Until I see you bowl in person, I can't do that math for you. So I can't tell you where to look, because one thing, where you look and where you see the ball are 2 different animals. I've always looked at the arrows. I've never seen my ball hit my target in my life. Now, those who bowled against me in the 80s probably agreed. I never hit my target, but I did have an idea where it was going most times. I played basketball like you. So I've always seen my ball at 30 feet, which to me was when I shot a jump shot, I always saw my ball at the top. If I could tell if it's going left or right or front or back. So then I got a lot of my own rebounds. I shot it like, oh, that's short. If you're really good, you don't miss left or right very long. If you miss left or right a lot shooting jump shots, you don't get to shoot many jump shots.
Nice.
So if it's short or long, but I could tell halfway there. So I could always track my ball about halfway down the lane. It was either going where I wanted to break point or was inside of it. So I never really saw it. So it's hard for me to do that. So how you see the lane is very unique to each individual bowler because your feel is different than anybody else's. How you see the lane, I have bowlers tell me all the time, I'm playing 12, and then we look at it, they're hitting 9 every shot. Or I'm hitting 10, but they're hitting 13 every shot. Then they realize they don't see it at the arrows, they're seeing it 5 or 10 feet past it. And so the number they're telling me is correct, and they couldn't believe that where they're looking and where they're seeing it, because out here I can stop it anywhere I want. They're going, that's where I see it, like, right, that's 10 feet past the arrows. Now it really is hitting 10, but at the arrows where you were looking, it was hitting 13. So all that goes into play. So I can't really tell you stone cold where to look. If you're sliding on 30 and your ball's hitting 15, 16, it'll probably be going to the Baker box. If you're sliding on 30 and it's hitting 10, you're not going to like bowling very much.
So I have a question that just kind of came up thinking about that. Is a good way to be able to help yourself find your best angles and where to line up when you throw a good shot and you get a flush strike?
I would just write down the numbers. I stood on 25, I slid on 30. I was looking at 12, I hit 15. Okay, and you keep track of all. What happens is, I think so many bowlers, it's either a good shot or bad shot before you throw it.
Yeah.
There are very specific places on the approach that I like to bowl from. I had my 7 or 10 spots, 17 and a half, 20 and a half, 20. I mean, that's kind of, I didn't like standing on the 4s and 9s, whatever. I didn't like, the arrows have to make sense to where you're standing.
Absolutely.
Like playing basketball, there were a lot of spots on that court I like to shoot from. And you see both players try to get to their favorite spot. And sports are sports. So I was always very, if I could stand on 17 and a half and look at 9, I bowled really, really good. So I had my spots on my lane, like in my stance where I'm targeting, where my feet are, have to make sense. Because there are spots in the lane, when I stand on 19, I don't know if I should look at 9, 10, or 11. None of them look right because I look cramped or wide open. So I had to get the spot, when I looked at my target, it looked hittable. So then I'm relaxed. If you're playing where somebody's telling you to play and it doesn't make sense, you will not throw that shot very well. So a lot of it's what you do in your stance. You have to have confidence that where you're standing and looking, you can actually hit it.
Great point. Okay, next question. Mark, I'm a right-hander. When I line up with my left foot, should I use the inside of my left foot or from the top of the shoe?
Sure. whatever. I always use the middle of my foot. So if I'm looking at this carpet, I'm looking at the yellow in the middle. Because when I look down at the approach, when I slide, I'm just going to glance at it. Oh, I slid on 20. I slid on 17. I can go by there because the dots, figure out what board it is. Yeah. I've always used the middle of my foot because it's just easy to look at the foul line and guess from there. You're more than welcome to look on the inside. Yeah. That's all.
Next question. I understand the drift and miss aspect. A lot of people are on this drift and miss right now. But how does that determine which board is hit down lane? Like, what's the extra math to it? I guess that's kind of what you explained in the last question a little bit.
I mean, it's just so the farther right you are, the where you slide and where you hit will be closer.
Yeah.
So if you slide on 15, you better be hitting 6, 7, 8. Mm-hmm. Because the math is if you slide on 15, your ball's going to hit here and go through 7. Well, you can just draw a line from the inside of from your foot through the target to the break point to the Baker box.
Yeah.
That's a really tight number. Mm-hmm. But if you slide on 25 and your number's that tight, you'll go Brooklyn. So if you slide on 25, you got to be hitting about between 11.5 and 13. You slide on 30 between about 15.5 and 17. I mean, I could go through, do the whole thing for you, but that kind of takes away from what I do for a living.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's just me watching hundreds of shots. Now, if you're female and you show up and you're thin, you got really small hips and you're not very wide in the shoulders, your numbers will be completely different because you're so thin. I'm super wide. I got broad shoulders, so my numbers are always a little skewed. So there isn't a tried and true, this is the number. I mean, I've seen some lady bowlers or guys who are like Norm Duke can literally slide on 16, 17 and hit 10. Yeah. If I slide on 16 and try to hit 10, I'm going to hit myself in the ankle with the ball. Yeah. I'm too wide. I'm too big of a guy to have my numbers match Norm's numbers. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it has to do with your body size, how broad your shoulders are, those types of things. So I just can't give you a set thing. You throw 5 shots in front of me and I can do it. Yeah. But that's just because I'm into that. I've always been into the math of it all. Mm-hmm. Because I always thought the best bowlers had the best geometry, and when I went back and looked, that's how it always worked.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too because once you get that first 15 feet of the lane figured out,
the ball feeds.
The ball
just
does
feeds
what it's going to do.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. There's nothing you even can do. It's not like you can go down there and redirect it yourself.
Right.
So taking observations of what's happening when your ball is going through certain parts and you're standing in certain parts of the approach are really important. Because
so that's what at my camp I talk about that a lot. One of your assignments is when we talk about the Baker box and you're missing your drift numbers is for the next 6 months, every time you bowl a game 20 pins over your average, write down the ball and write down your numbers. Mm-hmm. And you do put it in a spreadsheet, and after about 6 months, you're going to go, oh, wow, there's about 7 to 10 places I get all my scores from, and I tend to use this ball on that. When I'm playing out, it tends to be this ball. When I'm playing in, it tends to be that ball. So all of a sudden, you'll see balls work from better parts of the lane. Every ball that works at 5th arrow probably isn't going to work from 8, 9. And balls that pick up and roll really smooth from 9, 10, 11 probably aren't the ball you want to use in game 3 or 4 in a league when they hook and you got to go around them. Mm-hmm. So if you write the ball down and your numbers, the spreadsheet will kind of tell you how you bowl and what balls to use, I think. That's what worked for me. I was never the best bowler in the world by any means. I did okay, but I've always been able to help bowlers quite a bit by understanding their numbers. And once people get that, and they start buying into it, I bowl really well from here. Once a person says that, the odds of that next shot being a pretty good shot go way up.
Way up. Comfort zones.
100%.
Absolutely. Okay. Next question. Do your numbers / drift change depending on what zone you're playing? As a two-hander, I change my footwork and drift depending on the zone. Am I missing something?
No, because that's very common. A guy like me, one-hander that drifted about 4. Mm-hmm. If I tried to play first arrow and I had to slide like on 12, I might have to sand on like 2. I would drift 9 to 10 when I played way, way, way right. And as I got farther left in the lane, my drift tended to get a little less. So if I was playing 25, 30 when they really, really hooked, I didn't drift as much. So that's a lot of it. A lot of it is, that's a very good question. So I drifted left. So people that drift right tend not to drift right when they play out, but once they get left of 20, 25 or 30, they tend to walk back to 10 every time.
Yeah.
So people that drift right tend to drift a lot from in. People that drift left tend to drift a lot from out. That was an excellent question.
I feel a tendency sometimes when I'm playing further left, I have to correct myself to remind myself to walk straight, because as I'm looking at my target so much further right.
Yeah, when you walk back to your target, I just think it's bad news playing in, because you're walking towards the hook. And everybody's always trying to avoid the early hook. So when you walk back towards your target, anytime you play left of 12, you're getting the ball to the driest part of the lane the soonest. So you think the ball is always burning upwards, then you got to go to weaker balls. So I think it's very hard to get your ball to the right spot to make it hook when you walk right when you play in. Now, if you bowl somewhere with a ton of oil and all you do is play out, drifting right's great.
Yeah.
I mean, who are some of the best outside players of all time? You had Ozio, you had Walter Ray, you had Ferraro, you had Voss, you had Pedersen. Those guys all walk slightly right in their primes and late earlies when I bowled, in the late 80s when I bowled them on tour. The guys that could walk a little bit right, Gary Dickinson. Right of 5, they were unbeatable. Who are the guys that walk left? Well, you had the two big dogs, Mark Roth and Marshall Holman. Then you had guys like Ron Palombi and Tom Kreitz and Dave Husted, a guy named Jim Penkek. We all walk left. Well, you go look at all of our shows, we made most of our money was over there, and those guys made most of their money over there. So there is something to all that.
Okay, great answer. Next question. What does a stronger ball actually mean?
Stronger ball means it picks up sooner. A stronger ball means it rolls sooner. It doesn't mean it hooks more. So they usually stronger ball on fresh. You want the lanes are hooking on the back. You want some ball to pick up and be a little smoother. Use your strongest ball to start. It blends out the lane. As a ball starts hooking earlier, then you go to your balls that go longer, have a little more reaction on the back.
Next question. If you start seeing that the oil track over your thumb, that the oil is tracking over your thumb, what does that mean?
That means at some point your ball's rolling over your thumb hole. There's a couple ways. I mean, usually what happens is you turn it too soon in your backswing. So your thumb's down. As you go to throw it, you flip it up, kind of like a full roller, so the track rolls up on your thumb. There's a couple explanations of that. That's something you might want to go to your local pro shop. There's ways to drill around that. That's what I would probably do. Get your hand to get that ball to roll a little different.
Okay. I recently switched to no thumb one-handed style. It seems if I come around the ball the same as I did with my thumb in, my flare wants to track over my finger holes. Do I need to change my drill layout to get a proper ball roll back?
That's ahead of my pay grade.
Yeah.
I am not a ball driller.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of answers to that.
Yeah.
I'm not the right guy for that. Find your best pro shop in your area. Somebody knows about it. Somebody has a specialization in guys that don't use their thumb.
Yeah.
It's coming a bigger and bigger part of my process. I think today with Amir, we're going to do that. He has no thumb in it. So I'm 20% of my business now has that. So that's a whole different way of laying out balls. Find the person that actually likes it and has some experience with it. They'll be able to help you the most.
Last question. Is it okay if you have no drift as a right two-hander?
Very unusual for a two-hander not to have drift, because your third step, if you take 5, has to walk a little bit away from it, because the key to being a good two-hander is getting this left shoulder inside your right hip in your backswing. I talk about that a ton in my instructional video with both Belmonte and Simonson. They kind of do it. Their third steps are almost magically the same, and both their left shoulders clear their right hips. So on the top of their backswing, their swing is matched to the break point. If you have no drift and your swing bumps out, if you measure yourself in the back, the top of your swing will kind of look inverted, like it's going towards the 4-pin or the 7, instead of going towards, probably the 6-pin, kind of where the Baker box is. So that's very critical. If you're super thin, you can get away with it. If you were as wide as me, that wouldn't work. Like I said, the two best that ever lived at it, Mr. Simonson, Mr. Belmonte, both have a very distinct third step, and that allows their left shoulder to clear their right hip. So that's why, even though they're two-handed and they go for the power, both when they're on are very, very accurate.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering that question. It reminds me of the swing set, analogy that you were saying before, and you have to have it open enough for your arm to be able to swing freely. You literally would hit your leg otherwise.
If you walk straight as a two-hander, it's hard to employ the swing set, because it's hard to get because two-handed you can't both, if you go from 1 to 2, we all tend to stay pretty square with our upper body. Our upper body would tilt 20, 30 degrees.
Yeah.
Now, the two-handed, this shoulder has to get up here, so you've got to get your hands back here.
It's almost like a golf swing.
You've got to get that left foot to go away to get those shoulders out. If your left foot's straight, you're going to have to get it around your right hip, and that's going to bring in a lot of rotation with your shoulders and a lot of hand movement. If you're super coordinated, I guess you can get away with that. But the 2 best of all time don't. So that's kind of what I go by. Remember, I've never bowled two-handed.
Yeah.
I get the premise. I wish I was 17 again and could take a swing at it, because I'd be right there with my son at that 550 rev rate at 19 miles an hour. He's nice. I'm not. I would have been very mouthy about it.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have been two-handed at 17.
Your
at
ball
600
would have
rev
probably
rate.
been moving a little faster than 19 at that point.
Oh, I'd have been yelling at people. It'd have been a terrible thing, but it sure would have been fun.
It would have been fun.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much as always.
If people are gonna hate two-handers, I would have given them a reason.
Yeah.
I'd have let them know before we started they lost.
So you think Belmo was too nice? Belmo was too nice about it.
I was way too intense. I was meant for the basketball court, where you had to run back on defense, so you couldn't get mad.
Yeah.
By the time you got mad, you had to go back and play defense, so you shut up.
Yeah.
Bowling was way too much time between shots for me to dislike you. There's a reason why I got no Nagy Award votes. I earned that, by the way.
It's still a competitive sport, though, so you got to have that.
And the best bowlers are super competitive. I'm not saying what I did was right. I'm just saying I was taught. I always remember, like, when I bowled on tour, I would get in trouble all the time. So you would get fine slips. I got a lot of fine slips. And they would mail them. When they got really in trouble, they would be register letters to my house. My mom, my CPA at the time, my mom, what do I do with this? I'll just pay it. I earned it. But the problem was, I grew up playing basketball, so the more intense you were, slightly dirty, the coach thought you were the greatest thing. I'll never forget in the NBA Finals, because I'm watching this Celtic City series, the greatest thing ever. And I'll never forget when Kevin McHale clotheslined Kurt Rambis. He about broke his neck. Tommy Heinsohn, the announcer, went, "That's the guy I want playing for me. That's how you play basketball." I went, "That's what I do on tour, and every time I do that, or I get mad, they give me a fine slip." In the NBA, they're giving a guy a bonus. I was in the wrong sport.
Yeah, bowling's non-contact, so.
Basketball, like he almost broke the guy's neck, and they're like, "That's how you play basketball." I'm like, yeah, I get it. Now go back on tour, ring and 10. Don't show any emotion. Huh? I want to punch somebody.
Yeah, no, for real. I think we all can relate to that feeling for sure, especially on the 10 pin.
Yeah, a lot of those. So yes, I had a little bit of a temper.
Oh, it's all good, man.
I'd have loved to have been two-handed
You're the nicest guy now.
Yeah, I was very. That helped a lot. I 64 years old. If you don't mellow out at 64, you probably don't make it to 64. But I'm still fairly intense in some things. Ask my poor kid. But yeah, I never get hot coaching. Yeah. I got hot bowling. Maybe I'm better at this. I don't know. But that was, yeah. But coaching's I'm a way better coach. I think I definitely have way more patience. Mm-hmm. I never had as much patience with myself competing as I do coaching.
I think that translates to life. I don't think anybody has as much patience with themselves as they wish they did.
No, I mean, it's just as I gotten older, I realized some of the things I was getting worried about probably didn't
matter.
The big difference, I think, a lot of it, when we went on tour, in my generation, we went on tour when we were young.
Yeah.
None of us went to college to bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're on tour in 1920, I mean, you don't know what day it is.
Yeah.
You're staying at the worst motels and that kind of. You're such a kid. And so that was a hard thing. I probably grew up too late, but I wouldn't trade those memories for the world. So anyways, the next part about it, when I bowled on tour, we didn't have these.
Yeah.
If we'd had these, I'd have been in jail half the week. Now they're just good war stories.
Yeah, or fairy tales. Who knows?
Wow. And I tell my son not to get mad. What a giant hypocrite I am.
Hey, you were a professional athlete.
Whatever.
You were living the dream.
I got to cut him some slack. Hey, for the people out there, I really appreciate these questions. You keep sending me all kinds of stuff. I get them all the time. They're great. I wish I had better answers for the numbers. Maybe it might be something I'll have to look into to put it. But I'm not sure how to do that. If I don't see you bowl in person, it's so hard to measure. Because two-handers and one-handers are slightly different because of rev rates.
I may be able to bring a salad bowl of bowlers for us to be able to test that on.
Well, I can do it in person. I can do it in 5 seconds.
Yeah, maybe I
so
can
you
get
gotta.
about 5
So I
minutes.
guess the easiest way to do it is find the bowler that looks
like you,
has the speed and rev rate. Maybe and those two things. And if it's someone throwing 17, rev rate's 350, and he's one-handed, that would be good for you. Or two-handed, because two-handers have a little different angles because their balls roll this way so much more. If you go watch from the back and you watch this way. Two-handers balls roll. That's why they play lane so much farther left.
Yeah. If
you watch from the other, one-handers, even when they trade behind it, have more rotation off their hand, where two-handers balls pick up way faster. They rev up quicker.
Yeah.
So they're always going to play the lane slightly different than one-handers. So their angles are slightly different just because how much more they hook it. True. So I can't, there's not a, like, if you slide on 22, you must play 11.
This is going to work. Yeah, they don't line
11,
up like
10,
that.
That'll work if it's a general place, but I don't want to just say that.
Because it really does depend on your rev rate. It depends on your speed. It depends on your
There's a lot of
body shape
factors
and
coming
how
in,
you- yeah.
and when I'm here watching with you in 5 minutes, I can figure out those factors, and then I ask you to do something in this, and I see what the ball does, and then it's on.
Now we're where we need
And then we've got
to be.
so then once you show it on video to somebody, here's where you slid, here's where you hit. It hit 6.4 at 44 feet in the Baker box. You split the 8-9. Then the bowler buys in. The reason why I'm such a big person, I always bowl on a full rack. I want them to throw a lot of strike balls and as many as you can. I don't believe you get better at something until you see it do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, I hear a lot of, I'm not working on my game. I'm just going to throw shots. I never shot any jump shots not trying to make the basket.
No, that's
I never had a coach like, go on the
Try to
side.
miss.
I realize you're missing the rim on every one, and you're perfecting your arc, and don't worry that you're missing the backboard. Never got that one. Never did soft toss. We're like, don't worry
About
that
hitting
you're
the
missing
ball.
the ball every time. You're taking a really good cut. Sooner or later, we'll figure out how to hit the curve. So as a coach, I'm always going to be a jock first. You know, I was a jock, then I became a bowler, then I became a coach. So I'm always going to coach you athletically first, as a bowler second, and then I become a coach.
Okay.
So without even trying, that's kind of how I see bowling. I'm always seeing the athletic side to it first. What can I take of your athletic ability and make it better? And then put bowling on top of your athleticism, no matter what it is, and that's how you become a bowler.
Great. Great context. Thank you as always, guys. Mark Baker, appreciate your time. And until next time, we will be here. Shout out to the crew.
Shout out to the crew.
Clean up crew. What you gonna do is the clean up crew. Come on through to the clean up crew. Throw them balls, I hope you do with the clean up crew. The clean up crew.
What's up, crew? It's Rich TV here. And if you or a brand that you may know are interested in sponsoring any of our videos on this channel, make sure you reach out to us, cleanupcrewbowling@gmail.com. We would love to have you. We have some spots open and we want to continue to grow this game of bowling that we all love. So if that's you or a brand that you know, feel free to reach out to us. We do have sponsorship slots available. It can be per video, it can be a package. We're open to it. So just reach out and see you guys soon. Till next time, shout out to the crew.